Welcome to Roll for Crit. Today we are talking about two games in the Escape Tales series. We previously, way back in the day, talked about the original game in the series, Escape Tales: The Awakening. Since then, there have been two additional entries, Low Memory and Children of Wyrmwoods, and we have played through both of those. These are escape room style games for one or more players. We played through all of them just solo, each of us separately. And we're going to give you our thoughts on what we thought about these new entries and how they compare to that original.
Each one does add new things, but we're going to start off with Low Memory. Most of the core mechanics are the same. You will be placing tokens on this sheet or here for now, so you can see that you take one of these codes, which are referred to a book. You'll read them and make sure you do it as it says. Now, what's different though is this is one of 3 books. Both of the expansions use chapters, and there are a couple other differences. Obviously, there's a different theme. This is a bit more in the future. I wouldn't say cyberpunk, but it's the high-tech sort of world.
It's kind of like a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, that's actually probably the best analogy for this. Regardless of the system, you obviously want to conserve your tokens because you only have so many to place on the board. Now, whenever you place one of these tokens, like usual, you may find little codes for puzzles, which you can then, in this case, it's lettering. In other ones, maybe symbols, but you'll put them into your phone app and it'll tell you that, you need 2 more cards. Oh, you just need 1. So you don't have to spend like 10 minutes looking at this being like, what does this mean? And realize you need 3 other things for it. You could also find items, which will have symbols. In the case of Low Memory, it will tell you that, if you have this symbol, read paragraph this. So sometimes you may get rewarded or not even be able to progress at all without specific items, not simply just, did you solve the puzzle? The other big difference in this one is you may come across cards that will ask for progress tokens. There are a certain number of progress tokens that they give you in a different color than the ones you use. You'll have to solve other puzzles in the room that will give you progress, which usually means you have to actually explore a bit more. You can't simply just try to find the one puzzle that lets you outside the room.
The other game that we're talking about, the newest one in the series, Children of Wyrmwoods, has a fantasy theme, very different kind of a vibe to it. But the core mechanics are mostly the same. You're spending these tokens, exploring rooms, finding puzzle cards, entering them into the app, etc., until you move on through, once again in this version, 3 different chapters of the story and completed your quest, however it may end, for better or worse, because there are different endings in these games. But this one, I think, has the most new, different stuff in it compared to the other 2 entries. As you can see, there's no longer a board, so the cards themselves are going to make up your map area to explore, and some of them are a little bit more creative. Like in this instance, you've got a doorway here that you're actually going to have to first figure out how to open before you can turn this over and see your more traditional layout of what you can explore. You also have a character card now, so you're not just playing this character, you actually get to see them with their card and various stats, and various things in the game will ask you what some of those stats are, and you may have different options or outcomes depending on that. And once again, there are different cards over here that will take effect if you happen to run out of those action tokens. In this case, you can now choose to focus or rest in order to gain more of those tokens. And depending on the situation you're in, one might be better or worse than the other, or just might have a different type of impact. I'm just going to show you, for instance, one of these is another new type of card, character modifier cards. So you're actually, if you find one of these, you're going to put it underneath your character, and it could be an item you find, it could be a new character you meet, any kind of thing could become one of these, and that's going to determine your final new score for whatever values it shows for your stats. So those are going to be changing a lot as the game goes on. Another big thing in this one is that now you can combine items. So if you go into the app, there's going to be a new section where you can enter 2 different numbers of items and try to fit them together, like a lot of classic adventure style, escape room style games have. Or you can even combine an item with your character personally, and he'll give you some thoughts about it, maybe a little hint as to what you should do with it. And I think that's basically the new stuff in the third one. Other than that, they're mostly the same, right?
There is one other thing, but it is listed as a spoiler, so we won't mention that just yet.
Yeah, there's always some unique stuff with the puzzles and things, but we'll let you discover those on your own. So like I said, we talked about The Awakening. a couple of years ago, the first one in the series. And I know I found myself kind of lukewarm on it. I think you liked it more than I did. I was a little frustrated by the overall system, which we can kind of talk about, which is pretty much the same in these games. But I don't know, what did you think about these two together or separately? Do you think did you like them better, worse than the original or than each other?
Well, I think because of them knowing that they're sequels, that they sort of try to stretch and mess with these different abilities. Like this one definitely feels a lot more like old school point and click, with the stats coming up. This was really trying to be a bit more, I felt like, grounded in the sense like, yes, you're in a sci-fi tech-ish Black Mirror world. It's a little sad that you didn't get as much variety in terms of like I said, different puzzles, but it was a bit more cohesive. And definitely I'm a bigger fan of the chapter aspect because one, that's a perfect save point. You're like, I'm going to just do chapter 1 tonight and see what, because you don't have to like find a weird place to stop.
And also, they're also much longer, I think, because of that. The first game could last you a decent amount of time. It wasn't short, but I think because of the chapters, they've had more freedom to be like, each one of these is going to be a few hours because we expect you to be taking more breaks and stuff like that. And also, if this wasn't obvious, these are all standalone. The stories are not connected. You can play them in any order that you want.
Yeah.
So I think definitely Wyrmwoods is like clearly the one that has the most new stuff in it. Did that stuff work for you, or did it make you like that one any more than the other two?
It did. I think my biggest problem is with it, they have a lot of cool ideas, including the thing I can't talk too much about, but they're more towards the end of it. Like I feel they should have risked and tried to mess around with some more puzzles, taking advantage of that stuff earlier on. Like the combining was definitely used early on, which is good. Like that was used, I think, throughout the entire thing. So that didn't feel like at the end. There were a few things I'm like, this could have been really cool if this was introduced at the beginning of chapter 2 or at least more used, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah. For my thoughts, low memory. I did not have a good time playing low memory. I really did not. I mean, I don't want to rehash too much. You can watch our first review to find like our thoughts on the basic system. But in general, I really don't like the feeling of being punished for exploring. And that's still what I feel like a lot of this system is I'm constantly under pressure of looking at the wrong thing. And there are so many times in these games where I look at an object and it's like, whether it's important or not, it's a coin flip. The thing that I thought is very important it's like a big important picture. I'm like, oh, that's got to be a puzzle. They're like, oh, cool picture. You wasted a token. Or, oh, like there's a cup over here. I don't know. Oh, there's an important item in it apparently that I desperately needed. And that's just not my style of play. And now I do think as you go through the cards and stuff, like they'll change your endings. It's not like you can lose per se. So I think if you go into it with the mindset, like it's not actually as punishing as it seems, but there is just this overall pressure to it that I still just don't like.
You're like, I want to see and experience everything, which you can't. I don't think it's possible to hit every puzzle in these games. And I think that's part of the problem with it. Like, other things you can, and this is where you have to make that trade-off like we brought up before of whether you do an actual timed event, which is like more your escape room unlock kind of things, or this, which there's no time, but you're really just clicking, I guess, and you only have so many things.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, I feel like you could, just like how you don't have to use the hints. By the way, each puzzle, just like before, still has hints, and they will tell you the answer if you keep going through all of them. You could just say like, look, I'm going to click through. I mean, I'm sure that's like,
Yeah.
But what did you think though, in terms of the themes of these two?
I thought, so, I mean, again, I'll just briefly say low memory. I really didn't like low memory. I thought the story was pretty bad.
My problem with low memory, I see they're trying to do, there's a twist that comes about at the start of chapter 3, but when you play through 1 and 2, you become a little confused. Like, what's going on?
Yeah,
a little bit.
It just throws a lot of things at you that I didn't think it came together well.
Well, you keep bringing up low memory, but you haven't said anything else.
Well, it's because we keep getting into side tangents before I can get to the second one. But this one I liked a lot more. I liked Children of Wyrmwoods a lot more. I still had those same issues with it. Like, don't get me wrong. I think that is just the way the system is, and it's just not really my thing. But in terms of theme, I thought this one, it takes itself less seriously. It's goofier and weirder and sillier, and I appreciated that, and I thought it helped me kind of forgive some of the weirder puzzles and things that maybe would have been more annoying to me in other games. I thought the stats were interesting. I thought that was cool, although by the end of the game I had like 20 cards lined up, and that was a little much.
Yeah.
That was a little rough on table space.
Yes, I agree. One, I think the story is actually really great and fun just to follow through. It is, as you said, a bit more goofier at times and sort of just, I don't want to say too much, but it definitely is not just your boring, generic medieval campaign.
Right, yeah.
You find out a lot of weird things going on, and they have some more weird puzzles like this. The rest in focus, if you haven't guessed, usually revolves around your stats a lot too, so you have to think like, okay, what would happen if I rest? I'm probably... Maybe I'm not going to hurt my stamina as much, but maybe I'm getting more paranoid because I'm wasting time, kind of deal.
More app integration too. Focuses more, gets more into the app stuff. I think towards the end of that one. And yeah, I really liked that we didn't have to worry about this board anymore. That I mean, later on, like there's the part where you find like it'll be like a castle or something, and the cards are not just laid out like this. There's like a different kind of format of how you maybe are progressing and looking at things, which I found very much more interesting. And I love being able to combine the items too. I just think that's generally just an interesting thing to have something and have to think about how it might work with something else.
I mean, if you look at these stories, even escape rooms to an extent, not as much, but combining items, they're old point and click style. That's one of the constant things of grab hook to rope.
Right.
And this one just, I think, captures a lot more, which is probably why it also captured you a lot more. I think it more connected to what is core to you versus, I think, where the other things you felt more just handicapped.
Yeah, it's just overall still like a lot of the puzzles, a lot of them don't click with me. I don't know what it is. A lot of them are I feel like many of them, you have to get a piece of paper. You have to, sometimes I feel like I should be cutting something out of something and like.
Yeah, that was definitely a big issue for me. And there are a couple I remember thinking like, this would have been great on a computer.
Yeah, and to me, that's a failure. I don't know, failure is a little harsh of a word, but like, I think and some people might disagree. Maybe you like getting all this stuff and trying to plan it out. But to me, I would like the cards to be enough. I would like it to be that I mean, a little bit here and there, maybe it's helpful to take notes or something. But some of these I felt like there's literally no way to solve it unless I go get some construction paper or have a photographic memory.
Right. No, I remember thinking like, man, if this was an exit game, I'd have some scissors out and cutting this up.
Right. Yeah. So, like, overall, I think this was a big improvement of the series. I don't think these are my cup of tea. I probably am not going to play number 4. That's me.
Right. I'm pretty still fine with it. And I think without the timer and the fact you can give answers, it's more of a thing you can sit together. And if you just don't want to solve the puzzle, you just click through it. Like, there are ways, it's pretty easy to, many would call it cheating. I would say adjusting it to whatever your group needs. And I think they have progressed with each one. Like, I like the chapter system. I think that's better. I think the choices matter more. And I think Wyrmwood is the superior of the 3. I think they have increased, and I think it's a lot of fun. And a lot of my biggest problems with Wyrmwood that aren't just nature of the beast of the style of the game are that I think they should have taken some of the new puzzles and mechanics that they have in it and made it earlier.
Yeah, I do. I applaud them for like trying new stuff and continuing to improve on the system for sure. And I wonder if even I might like these better. Maybe part of the problem is that I'm by myself and I'm just feeling like this puzzle's like hard. Maybe it would be better if I had someone to bounce an idea off of and not be stressed over it all by myself or something. I think there's a lot of different ways you can play these, but it's interesting. My biggest thing, honestly, is like I hope that for the next games they should hire better writers. I just think if the story were more compelling, I think I would be a lot more forgiving because I'd be like, well, I really want to know what happens. But I don't want to know what happens in a lot of these scenarios.
I guess I was pretty fine with how the story went for me. Like, there could be weird. I really am curious how things end up with you in both of these, but we will not discuss this on the video. No spoilers.
No spoilers. But if you want to talk spoilers in the comments and mark it clearly, that's something you could do.
Yes, please mark it.
Yes, if you have played these games before, it might be interesting to hear your endings and your experiences. And if you have found, if you side with anything I say, or if you've just found like ways around them, like you were saying, that have improved the game for you, or if you love the system as it is and you think these are some of your favorite escape room games.
In particular, let us know if you've played all three, which is your favorite in the series. Do you agree that the final one is currently, at least even though you're not so happy about it, our favorite one?
Still my
or
favorite.
Is it one of the other previous two?
I still liked the third one.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I actually liked that one. So I consider that a win.
Well, then maybe 4 would be even better.
Maybe it will. Maybe it will.
You know what? If it's pirate themed and maybe there's an island with apes or something of a similar ilk, maybe that will be.
Maybe I'll give it a try. I don't know. I'm very wishy-washy and easily influenced. Again, let us know what you think in the comments. Until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this was Roll for Crit. Hey, why don't you like this video for us to help us out, or even subscribe to the channel, or even support us on Patreon, where for just a few bucks a month, you can get some really cool extra content. We also do live streams on our Twitch channel and a separate YouTube channel. You can find links to that in the description. You definitely want to catch us playing board games and video games over there.